Good morning. So today our Watch It Wednesday is going to be the wonderful Three Stooges. This is our 75th anniversary. So it's got several discs in it. It's got 3 discs. Wonderful, wonderful set. It's got lots of information about them. Highly recommend. You can find these at Walmart or even at Target and places like that. It has a lot of bonus footage as well. And to give you a little bit of information about the Three Stooges, they're an American comedy team noted for violent, anarchic, slapstick, and comic routines rooted in the burlesque tradition. Saved. 6 men were members of the team throughout the years. You had Shemp Howard, which was Samuel Horowitz. You had Mo Howard, whose original name was Moses Horowitz. You had Larry Fine, who was Louis Finberg. You had Curly Howard, who was Jerome Horwitz. You had Joe Besser. You had Joe Dorita, who was Joseph Wardell as well. Now, all of these men were from New York, Los Angeles area, Pennsylvania, California, Missouri, and Philadelphia. Now, all of these men, being Mo Howard was the first of the Three Stooges to enter the show business. He attempted to launch a stage career during the 1910s, acting in everything from burlesque revenues to Shakespearean plays, but he found little success until 1922 when he formed a comedy act with his older brother Shemp and longtime friend Ted Healy. Now, Larry Fine, a comedian violinist who had performed in Vanderbilt act with his wife, joined Healy and Howard's in 1925. Now, they performed in the vaudeville for the next few years and achieved success on Broadway in the late 1920s as stars of the Earl Carroll's Vanities. The acts at the point were fronted by Healy, whose attempts at singing or joking and telling were frequently interrupted by the absurd antics of these stooges. The teams appeared in a film also called Soup to Nuts in 1930s. Shortly after, Shemp, who disliked the frequently intoxicated Healy, quit the act. He was then replaced by another Howard brother, Jerry, who shaved his head to conform to the Stooges' trademark of the bizarre hairstyles, a bold cut for Mo, wild frizzy curls for Larry, and he was thereafter known to all as Curly. Now, Ted Healy and his Stooges, as they were then billed, appeared in several features and short films during the 1930s. Some of them were Meet the Baron, Dancing Lady, Hollywood Party in 1934. And the Stooges became increasingly estranged from Healy, whose mood swings ranged from warm and kind to violently abusive, depending on his state of sobriety. Now, in 1934, Mo, Larry, and Curly signed a long-term contract with Columbia Pictures and rechristened themselves the Three Stooges. Now, during the next 24 years, the teams appeared in nearly 200 short subjects and a handful of feature films for Columbia. They never received a raise in that time from their original annual salary of $60,000, which was split 3 ways, so $30,000 each. Although their contract allowed them to take and make personal appearances for 13 weeks each year, which proved much more lucrative. Now, you would think that they would have had a lot of money, but they just didn't. The Stooges' comic style was brash and brazen and was characterized by such cartoonish violent acts as slapping, punching, eye-poking, hair-pulling, all punctuated by exaggerated sound effects that they often attacked one another with hammers and saws and a variety of sharp and blunt objects, but never really hurting anybody. Now, derided by critics for many years for their lowbrow anarchy, their sheer longevity forced many critics to concede that the team exhibited expert comic timing and a mastery of the burlesque style humor. Mo was the bully of the act, of course. Curly, the most popular member of the team with both audiences and critics, was the childlike Patsy, who was often receiving end of Mo's abuse and who expressed himself through a variety of squeals, grunts, physical antics, and cries of woo woo woo. And Larry was a somewhat passive middleman who was usually given less to do, but who proved a good foil for both Mo and Curly. And the team made 97 short comedies during the Curly years, which was 1934 to 1946, with the period from 1938 to 1942 considering exceptionally strong. Now, Curly was a heavy drinker who suffered from hypertension. He experienced a series of health problems. Around 1945, his performances in films made during the next 2 years are sluggish and bereft, of course, of vitality and playfulness displayed as in his earlier years. During the film of Half-Wit's Holiday, which was made in 1942, Curl was felled by a major stroke that rendered him incapacitated, and he was forced to retire. Then Shemp rejoined the act after a 15-year absence and remained with the Stooges through 78 films until his death from a heart attack in 1955. Although not as immediately enduring as Curly, Shemp, who was promoted as the ugliest man in Hollywood, was a highly skilled comic who excelled at ad-libbing and physical comedy. By the time Shemp rejoined the act, however, budgets for the film had been severely cut, and many of the films from Shemp era are marred by blatant low production values. After Shemp's death, he was replaced in the act by Joe Besser, was the rotund character comic with a prissy persona. He stayed with the team through the filming of their final Columbia short in 1958, after which he quit the act to care for his ailing wife. And Moe and Larry, of course, seriously considered retirement after Besser's departure, but within a year, the Stooges underwent a massive revival in popularity because of the television shows of their old films. They added burlesque comic Joe DeRita, nicknamed Curly Joe, to the act, and starred in several popular feature-length films from 1959 to 1965. The best among them being The Three Stooges Met Hercules, Around the World in a Daze, and they began their last film, the low-budget comedy travelogue Kook's Tour, in 1970. During its filming, Larry suffered a stroke, and footage from the never-completed film was released years later on a home video. Larry spent his last years promoting his autobiography, Stroke of Luck, in 1973. Moe, who toured the college lecture circuit and appeared on talk shows during the early 70s, also wrote an autobiography. He called it Moe Howard and the Three Stooges, which was published posthumously in 1977. That's the year I was born. The Three Stooges remained popular well into the 21st century through television syndication and merchandising of their images of commercial products. The movie The Three Stooges, in which a new cast inhabited the familiar roles, was released in 2012. And again, this copy is the 75th anniversary. I highly recommend it. I grew up some watching The Three Stooges. It's more, to me, I mean, women like it, but to me it's more of a guy's comic. Because I know my husband likes it, even my boys like it. So you have multiple generations that this appeals to. So go check it out and let me know what you think of it. Catch you guys later.